to teach and guide us how to end birth and death, leave suffering and attain bliss, and quickly realize non-birth. Cung thính đại đức thắng thịnh, vì thứ pháp hội gặp nhật thiết chúng sanh, thiên chiến diệu pháp luân giao đạo ngã môn, như há liêu sanh thoát từ ly khổ Nhap Lac, tốc chứng vô sanh. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Nam mô Sa Đan Tho Su Che Do Ye La Hơ Di San Miao San Po To Xie. Nam mô Đa Tát Tha Tô Ya Đa Ya La De Tam Miao Tam Po Đà Thoa. The unsurpassed, profound, subtle, and wonderful Dharma in 100,000 million aeons is difficult to encounter. Now that I'm able to see and hear, I will receive and maintain it. I vow to fathom the thus come one's true and actual principles. Wu shang sheng sheng wei miao fa bai jie wan jie nan zao yu wo jin jie wa de shou chi yuan jie ru lai zhen shi yi. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Venerable Qingliang, Venerable YongHua, Venerable left home people, and all good advisors, Emitofuo. Chư Phật Bồ Tát kính thưa Thánh Lương Quốc sư, Hòa thượng Thiện Hóa, quý thầy cô và quý vị thiện tri thức A Di Đà Phật. Chư Phật Bồ Tát, Qingliang Đại sư, sư phụ sang人,各位出家人，各位上知识，阿弥陀佛。Today is the 20th of March 2021. Thank you all for coming. We are here to discuss the preface to the Avatamsaka Sutra, written by Master Qingliang, the Avatamsaka Bodhisattva. We are nearing, 3/4 of the way of his work. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. The context is, we are now on slide 163. But this is the context. The great master wrote, he says, opening fine Dust-motes sutra scrolls. Then in every thought, the fruit is one. Okay? Opening fine Dust-motes sutra scrolls. This is the concept of Dust-motes that is brought up in the Avatamsaka Sutra context. Dust-motes, by definition, they refer to very fine, very, very fine dust. Okay? Dust is a concept that's defined in the long Agama Sutra. The Buddha went to great lengths to explain this concept of dust, okay? Because he used this concept of Dust-motes later on to help his people, his disciples, become enlightened. Okay? So in the long Agama Sutra, dust refers to something that has color and a shape. Okay? And it is an object perceived that can be perceived by your eyes. And he actually minutely classified the dust-motes, the very fine dust particles, okay, that you see floating in the air, okay? For example, when you see through the sunlight through a crack in the wall, in the window, you see that light going through the room, and you see all these floating dust, among which are COVID-19 viruses. No, not funny. Sorry. Okay? And so the Buddha says, dust-motes here has varying degrees of fineness. There's something called fine dust, that he says, and there's something called gold dust, motes. There is something called water dust, okay? The dust that arises from the water. There is something called the rabbit hair dust, okay? It's as fine as a rabbit's hair, if you will, okay? And there's something called something coarser called the goat hair dust, the goat-sized hair dust. And there's something called the ox, the ox mao here is wei mao. You can't see, can you? This is mao or wei? Mao, okay, hair. So it's a ox hair dust, okay, and there's something called that I just talked about, the cracks, that the dust can float through the cracks, okay. So there are a lot of differentiations of dust types, okay, and so he says that by definition, you take 7 of these extremely fine dust particles and you combine them together, and that's how you create a fine dust. So the Buddha's, in the Buddha's world, he's very, very precise in his description of the physical world we live in, okay? And he said, furthermore, 7 of these fine dust, very fine dust, combined together will become a gold dust. 7 gold dust combined together will make up a water dust, and so forth. That's his science, if you will. And the dust here is a symbol for things very minute. They're floating and moving, and they are defiling. Okay, so in Buddhism, they call cheng go, or defiling dust. Cheng is dust, go is dirty, so defiling. So this dust that defiles. Or it's sometimes called chen lao, which is a dust that is tiring, which brings me to a question that Korea sent us last year. It says, what is chen lao? What is tiring dust? Okay, and do we have a slide for that? I'm too old to remember things that happened last year. Do we have a slide for that? Xin, do you remember? We made a slide for that, didn't we? No?
Yes, I think we haven't finalized it, but we made a slide.
We haven't finalized it,
yeah.
So we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Or shall we just talk on the fly anyway? There's a dust, they float. Who cares?
Yeah.
What I did is I looked up the dictionary, Buddhist dictionary of what tiring dust means, chen lao means, okay? And in this, the go-to Buddhist dictionary by the Fo Guangshan dictionary by the Buddha the Buddha Light group, headquartered in Taiwan. They're very big. They're huge, actually. They're one of the biggest in the world. The Taiwanese, to their credit, have been financing the spreading of Mahayana Buddhism throughout the world. Okay, and it's very generous of them. I too benefited from their generosity when I was a novice. Went over there to learn precepts and so forth, and so for 2 years. So that's the foresight of the Taiwanese culture. I hope that they preserve it, because we don't want to lose this beautiful tradition of they basically finance the propagation of Mahayana all over the world. That's the kind of foresight they have, because in the past there were a lot of bodhisattvas who appeared in Taiwan, and they taught Taiwanese, and they got a lot of support. So the Taiwanese are very strong in supporting Buddhism. Unfortunately, their current generation, they don't cultivate as much. They're caught up by material things. Now they're building temples, they're building monuments instead of building or training people. Okay, what right now, unfortunately, in Taiwan is what is called the semblance Dharma age, meaning people are more bent on building structures, monuments, temples, rather than cultivating. I hope it changes. Okay, we have to do something about that down the road. Now, so this dictionary, going back to that dictionary, it defines it as affliction. So that's why the Koreans, the question from Jewel Mountain in Korea last year was that the Sunims, the monks and nuns there, when you ask them about dust, the tiring dust, Chen Lao, okay, they define it as affliction. And they're correct. That's exactly what the dictionary says. Chen Lao is affliction, is equivalent to affliction. Because the Buddha said so in the Agama store. He says the tiring dust is basically affliction. Chen Lao, again, Chen is dust. We just went through the definition of the Buddha defined as dust in the Agama store. Lao is tiring. So the dust that's tiring refers to the dust that agitates your mind. Okay, that is this dust here that causes your mind to become afflicted. Okay, and with affliction, you get tired. Let's try this. Okay, all you have to do is to go through during the day and not get afflicted. You won't get tired at all. Okay, that's what happens when you go to Chanqi, when you meditate all day from 3 in the morning until midnight. So you really don't get the chance to get afflicted as much as you were as you usually are in your daily lives. I give you a very prime example. Okay, I'm not talking about Chanqi yet. I'm talking about a lady here who came up here from Los Angeles to stay with you for 2 weeks to cook for you. Okay, I just woke her up. You feed her too well. That's why you're dozing off. Okay, and so she was at the temple during the winter Chanqi. Okay, she basically quit her job and said, I don't want to work anymore. And this is year-end Chanchi, so I'm going to go there and live there. Okay, and so that's all she did. She brought her clothes there, and she went there and lived there. Forgot to even bring money. So she lived there for 10 weeks, 9 weeks of Chanchi, 1 week of Pochi. And then after that, she stayed on, continued to live there until recently. And then she went home, okay? And she came back. So before she went home, you see she walked around with this serenity. Oh, I'm so happy. Life is so peaceful. Temple people at Wei Mountain Temple, they're so afflicted, but I feel so peaceful and calm. She got the message. See, do not let the dust tire you out. Do not let other people's afflictions tire you out. That's the training. See that? So can you stay in the midst of the dust? Can you stay in the midst of afflictions and yet not get afflicted? Okay, so she did that. She said, I don't care, I'm peaceful, I'm calm, I'm unafflicted. And she went home, and she came back. A week later, she's all afflicted. So now she's hiding up here, hoping to find peace and calm for a change. Okay, so that's what happens when you let the dust agitate you. You get afflicted, and that's why your energy is drained. Okay, that's why you're tired out. So that's why by definition the Buddha is very, very savvy. He says there's something called tiring dust, which is another name for affliction. So that's correct. The Korean Sunims are correct in teaching. In the training program, they define tiring dust, Cheng Lao, as affliction, as per the Agama store. That's totally correct. Are you happy, Korean people? Are you ready? Huh? All right. Now, you want to hear the truth? Or shall we stop here? You want to hear the truth? Okay. Actually, when the Buddha explained that to the Arhats in the Agama store, it's a simplification. Okay? Chen Lao is not only affliction. Affliction is the coarse observation you can see that in the Vimalakirti Sutra, okay, Sariputra, number one wisdom among the Arhat disciples of the Buddha, who is listening to Vimalakirti, which is a transformation body Buddha, speak Dharma to Manjushri, which is also who is also another transformation body of a Buddha. Okay, two different Buddhas talking Dharma to each other. So Sariputra was sitting there, all adorned as a fourth-stage Arhat in his seat, and totally unmoving, and so serene, so happy, listening to the Dharma. He said, wow, my teacher doesn't talk like this to me. Okay, so these two Buddhas are talking to each other, dueling, if you will, Dharma dueling. They're using Dharma as sabers, ding, 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 ding. You know, and so Sariputra was listening in rapture, and so beautiful that he was so adorned that the Vimalakirtis made. Okay, she looked at Sariputra in all his splendor, his beautiful Arhat sitting there. Okay, so she She said, wow, this is a beautiful thing. I'm going to offer him flowers. So he spread flowers on him. She threw flowers. You know how Indians do that. Been to India? You see, they take flowers and, whoo, like we do it in China, we do it with rice grains. Huh? They do it in India with flowers. And so the flowers were flying up in the air and then floating down, okay, raining on Sariputra, and Sariputra totally unmoving. Okay? This dust cannot tie me up. I'm not afflicted by all these flowers. I'm not afflicted by your admiration, adoration. Okay? No. And then, all of a sudden, he notices some flowers stuck on his clothes. Okay? Some flowers remain here. Can you imagine, take a flower and put it on my clothes? It's not becoming of a monk to wear flowers. That's what Sariputra said. A monk, by our precepts, cannot adorn himself with flowers. That's illegal. So, Sariputra, being a very pure monk, okay, he take his hands and go like this. Okay? And guess what happens? The flower, as if are glued on to his clothes. He go like this, and the flower still stays there. So what happened? He got afflicted. So he lost his samadhi power. He says, wait a minute. I'm a monk. I'm not supposed to have flowers on my clothes. So that's an affliction. You see, the flower itself falling on him is nothing until he decided, no, I can't have this, can I? So he afflicted himself, not the flower. So that's why he lost his samadhi power. And at the same time, the maid of Vimalakirti, who is a bodhisattva. The Buddhas, if you want to be a maid of the Buddha, you have to be at least a bodhisattva. You cannot be an Arhat. Okay, I'm sorry, girls. Okay, you have to be a bodhisattva. There's this bodhisattva here maid who has, wow, this monk here is so adorned, so beautiful. I want to make an offering to him. So this offering here is in samadhi. So the flower landed here on Sariputra's in samadhi with her samadhi power. And therefore, Sariputra, when he lost his samadhi, he could not move the flower off his shoulders. Happens to the best of us. Sariputra, number one in wisdom. Okay, he's still stuck by conventional wisdom, stuck by knowledge. He's stuck by words, stuck by concepts. That's called, in Buddhism, attachment to the Dharma. He's attached to the Dharma called a monk cannot adorn himself with flowers. Therefore, he said, I can't have that, can I? Even if it's an offering with all the utmost sincerity from a maid, he still cannot accept it. So he's stuck on that precept Dharma. That's why he's an Arhat. Okay? So in that particular instance, is an example of a flower who is attiring dust to this great Arhat, number one in wisdom among the Buddha's disciples. He himself, with high level of wisdom, is still afflicted by a flower, by an offering. All right? So far, so good? So, this tiring dust here ultimately makes you afflicted. That's why you get tired. Remember, if you go home at night and you're tired, trust me, the majority of it came because you got afflicted during the day. Try not getting afflicted during the day. You go home as fresh as a flower. So those of you who says, I don't like going to work because going to work tires me out, and go home and be grouchy with my children, I challenge you to go to work and not get afflicted. That's real cultivation. If you cultivate like Sariputra and says, I'm going to appear, I'm going to sit here and be a statue the rest of my life, be adorned, okay, then you're useless. You can't benefit anyone. You but an Arhat. You but, in Buddha saying, a self-serving Arhat, a self-ending Arhat. You are inferior. Way Mountain has a question.
Master, how can we grow and get better if we don't work through our afflictions? If we don't get afflicted, then how can we get better?
It's not as simple as you know, the way you ask. Okay, the affliction in the concept of tiring dust is not an affliction. The affliction is at the coarse level. Let me put it that way for you. By the time you realize you're afflicted, it's a coarse level already. What happened is that let's go back and revisit the example of Sariputra, who was afflicted by the flower stuck on his clothes. Okay? The flower is just a flower stuck on his clothes. And then what happened is that he then went back. The thought arises to his teaching. In his mind, he went back his teaching, and thought arises saying that, wait a minute, this is an adornment. And therefore, this is not according to the Dharma, my Dharma. Okay? So that is correct. Okay? However, even though it's correct, it's not okay for him to be afflicted. Because he says, I don't want this, meaning he's afflicted. Right? Number one. Number two is that put yourself in a mate's place. He says, I worship, adore this Arhat, and I want to make an offering to him. And he says, no, I don't want your offering. Your offering is defiling, your offering is tiring. How would you feel? Here's your chance to plant blessings. And he says, no. So you're refusing You're not allowing this maiden girl to plant her blessings. How selfish of you. And you are an Arhat. You are supposed to have wisdom. And all you can think of is yourself. What good are you? Okay? So that's what happened to the concept of Lao. The tiring part is referring not only to affliction in the Hinayana sense that the Buddha taught in the Agama store. It refers to the fact that this dust here, the dust here you observe out there in the air, okay, actually are interacting with your eyes, with your brains. If in the case of, let's say, water dust, you have the sensation of humidity, yes? In the case of this thing called the goat hair dust, probably a little bit of odor, goat odor, like goat cheese. Some people cannot eat goat cheese. Can you believe it? Can you believe goat cheese is one of the better cheeses in the world? And this lady here in the Way Mountain Temple says, I can't take goat cheese. He goes, all I can do is I eat the goat cheese, I smell what? Grass. What a weirdo this woman is. Yeah. Okay? So anyway, so what happened is this dust here interact with the sense organs and make your sense organs move. Okay? So the tiring here does not necessarily refer to the affliction. It refers something deeper than affliction, something that tires you out because it moves you. Am I making sense to you? You're tired because of movement. Affliction is a coarser form of movement that you can observe through the facial expression. Say, what? Right? So this tiring here, actually the Lao here, refers to the movement because the movement of your sense organs is tiring. Your sense organs move and then you get afflicted. Namely, in Sariputra's case, his eyes saw the flower, so they moved. Wait, is that a flower? Can you see that? Is that a flower I see on my shoulder? Number one, that's a movement. Okay? Number two, the mind says, whoops, it's forbidden. I cannot have a flower on my clothes. Quick, quick! That's an affliction, then becomes an affliction. Yes, orange.
If you sense those things, you don't think, is that still being moved? Your eyes perceive something, but there's no thinking?
Then you're not moving.
Okay.
The movement refers to your mind moving. Your mind moving is a Buddhist term. Mind move, meaning a thought arises. Wait a minute, there's a flower. That thought, the mind strikes a thought. Hey, there's a flower. Hey, that's forbidden. Hey, that's inappropriate. Yes.
Can you, is it possible that the mind moves, aka thinking, without being afflicted, or as long as you think you will be afflicted.
This mind, when the mind moves here, it refers to the sixth consciousness, your thinking mind. It says you begin to think, like Sariputra. Wait, he's thinking. Wait, so he exited samadhi. Wait, you see that? Wait, is there a flower? Because he was thinking. His thinking mind was active. So far, so good. However, you can think without using the sixth consciousness, without using your thinking mind, which you don't know how to. To be blunt with you, do not imitate the Chinese. I can think. I don't have to move my mind. Not you, kiddo. Know your limitations. A man has got to know his limitations, says Clint Eastwood. Dirty Harry. So I cite the authority on limitations. Okay? Yes, or...
So that's the way to think without being afflicted, is to, as you said, think without using your senses. Basically like advanced bodhisattvas, they can think.
Yeah, the bodhisattvas can use the mind, and they don't need to use their thinking mind, and yet they still think. Their thinking is different from us. When we think, we use our calculating mind, if you will. Okay, thinking mind is a calculating mind. It says, "Oh, that's not good." Remember in the example, Shariputra says, "Oh, that's no good. What will people think? Oh, I'm an Arhat. I'm wearing flowers on my clothes. What would people think?" Okay? So he was thinking. He's using his thinking mind. Yeah. So that's why he got in trouble. That's why he lost his samadhi. So is it clear? Koreans. So in the Korean Sunims, when again, in summary, the Koreans are teaching each other that Chen Lao, tiring dust, is affliction, is correct. However, it is only at the course level of a definition of the Chen Lao, tiring dust. So to teach it to you as affliction, we don't do that in Mahayana, because even if you know you're afflicted, how does it help you? Okay, so in Mahayana we teach you at a low level, more minute level, where you have better understanding of the nature of the affliction, so that you can put an end to your affliction much quicker, much more effectively. So far, so good. So there's a difference in the depth and the effectiveness of the teachings between Hinayana and Mahayana. Mahayana is a lot more refined, a lot more detailed. All right. But let's go back to Hinayana, Hinayana level. So when the Buddha became, after he became a Buddha, he went to teach his 5 attendants in the deer park who were cultivating ascetic practices in the deer park, to no avail. They're getting nowhere. They couldn't make progress. That's what happens. It's because in outside of Buddhism, they don't have this insight, this wisdom, to enable them to make further progress. So they stuck. Whether you practice yoga, whether you practice whatever non-Buddhist practices, you reach a point where your knowledge base is no longer able to help you overcome your knowledge itself. that knowledge base that they have actually are stopping them from making further progress. They don't know how to fix those problems. So the Buddha realized that, so he went over to the deer park and spoke the Dharma to these 5 bhikshus who were working very hard, who were in samadhi. And he was speaking the Dharma. He said the concept of guest dust. He says that this notion of guest dust, meaning that it's dust here you are observing right there, is only temporary. Okay, that's why it's called a guest, like a guest coming over to your house. He or she's gonna be there for a short duration. It's not permanent. Or you go to a hotel, you're a guest there only for a duration. When you check in, they ask you, how many days, sir? Okay, and please remember, checkout time is before 11. Anyone? Okay, so the Buddha spoke Dharma to these 5 bhikshus. He came upon this, and so he spoke Dharma, and he said, he taught them the concept of guest dust. Okay, the dust there is temporary. Your affliction is temporary. It's not there forever. Okay, you're not that way forever. By the way, as a digression, today at lunch I explained to you why we in Mahayana, the Hinayana, they want to stay behind the 4 walls, they want to be pure, they want to stay in the mountains, they want to hide in the valley so that they're isolated from you, so that they're not afflicted, so that they're not bothered by the tiring dust. Okay? However, in Mahayana, we do the exact opposite. What we do is we engage so that we get afflicted by you. Okay? You are so noisy, you are so afflicted, you're so angry, you're so greedy, you're all those things, and we engage, and therefore we also like you. We're afflicted, we're greedy, and we are upset, all those things. All right? Would you call that stupidity? We do it on purpose, so that, because we know that those things are temporary, and we have antidotes to fix those things, so that when these affliction arises, they immediately die just as quick. Whereas Hinayana, they avoid the arisal of the affliction so that they don't have to deal with it. So when they afflicted like Sariputra, they say, wait a minute, this is against my precepts. He doesn't know what to do with it, with his affliction. Therefore, he cannot overcome his affliction. He's stuck. He's a victim of his affliction. He's a victim of his knowledge. So far, so good? So that's why when the Buddha talked to the 5 bhikshus and he brought up the concept of guest dust, this dust here is temporary. Don't be attached to it. Okay, this disciple of his called Ashnata Kondinya heard the concept guest dust, and he became enlightened and certified the first stage, Arhatship. So far, so good? So anyone remembers why Ashnata Kondinya was enlightened? Because Shakyamuni Buddha, Way Mountain, has a question. Go ahead.
How do you overcome an affliction that that you're worried about someone getting hurt. There's a little affliction that comes arise that I notice when you're about to see something happen. How do you overcome that?
Let it happen. Okay.
Thank you, Master.
Let it happen. Because there's based on the concept, you're so worried your child's going to get hurt. It's your assumption your child's going to get hurt. I have a couple of things for you to consider. Number one, the child may look like he's going to get hurt, but if he has the blessings, he may not get hurt. Somehow something's going to happen. Okay? Or he can get hurt. If you're not overly protective, you let the child get hurt, but then he'll recover. He'll learn from the pain, from the suffering. So you can't be overly protective. So, and finally, what I'm trying to tell you is that if you realize you are afflicted because you worry that your child's going to get hurt, then what do? The first thing you do is you take care of your affliction. Because when you're afflicted, you can't help your child anymore. Okay? You fix your affliction first. Then you have the clarity to know how to deal with it. But if you're afflicted, you make the wrong decisions. All right? So going back to the story, Ashtana Kandina, why he became enlightened. Because enlightened here is the Hinayana sense where you certify the first stage Arhatship, then you're considered in the Hinayana world to be enlightened. Again, I need to stress to you, in Mahayana world, we don't consider that to be enlightenment. Okay, enlightenment to us has a certain level of wisdom that is significant enough to make a difference, to be taught, so that you can go to better planes. However, there's a reason why Hinayana, where these Hinayana people, the Hinayana teaching, consider first stage Arhatship and higher to be enlightenment. There's a real important reason. Would you like to know? It's a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. It's because without the Buddhist knowledge, you'll never be able to break into the first stage Arhatship or higher. That's the realm of Buddhism. Without Buddhist wisdom, without Buddhist teaching, without Buddhist practices, there's no way for you to get there. No way. Impossible. Okay? Number one. Number two, there is a huge difference between below first stage Arhat and first stage Arhat. Would you like to know what the difference is? The difference is when you haven't reached a first stage Arhatship yet. And I explain this to you because the Chinese don't explain this to you. To me, the Chinese Buddhism is too mystical. And this is why the West, we have a hard time converting the West, converting the Westerners, especially Catholics. I can think of one Catholic guy here I really have struggled with. Okay. We will not mention names here. Okay. But here's what happens. If you are below first stage Arhatship, okay, when you're afflicted by greed, anger, stupidity, what happens? Suppose someone insults you and it makes you upset. You're upset by that. You know what happens? When you're below first stage Arhatship, and please don't be offended, okay, you're but a victim. You lose control. You go crazy, you blame others, you blame yourself, okay? The way your reaction, you respond to the criticism or the scolding or the insults is that cannot help you get out of that affliction. You cannot help yourself. That's why I term it, you but a victim. If someone praises you, you say, oh, please, no, I don't deserve it. But you basically lost control yourself. Now you sign over your house or get married or something like that. You know what I mean, girls? Yes? We do it to you all the time. It worked. Historically, mankind prospered because of that. Thank you. Okay? So the point here is that below first stage Arhatship, when you're afflicted, you become a victim. You cannot help it. That's it. You're done. Agree or disagree? The women are, I'm not commenting on that. You see, that's why our French Weiyang works. Boys, it really works. Never mind. Okay, so interestingly, what I mean by you cannot help yourself is that your affliction, you really have a hard time controlling your affliction. Once you're afflicted, that's it. You cannot get out. You lose clarity of mind. You cannot control yourself anymore. So far, so good? Just observe yourself. Okay? When someone insults you, someone criticizes you, someone praises you, see how you become. Okay? You become a victim of your own emotions. Yes or no? Okay, so you find the smartest person, the smartest professor, the smartest, Nobel laureate or something, and you praise them or you criticize them, they get afflicted, that's it. They're no longer the smartest professor, they basically are a victim of their emotions. Notice that? Huh? That's what is called ordinary people. Not most people. It's called ordinary people because you are as ordinary as plain vanilla. Why do I think food all the time? I don't get it. I'm really afflicted by this. Okay? You got that? We are victims of our emotions, of our afflictions. That's called ordinary people. So far, so good. When you get to first stage Arhatship, guess what happens? You are not as easily moved. so you don't lose your clarity of mind. So when someone criticizes you, the ordinary person, if you have a MRI machine that analyze your brains, like my disciple would like to do, measure people with machine, you're going to go like, right? There's a blip like this when you're afflicted. So first you're good, and that's it. And you go to go like this. Your blip is like this, and you go, and I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you. You just wait, you. I will never forgive you. You know, it's like this. The first stage Arhat, okay, the blip is like this. The first stage Arhat, the blip is not as high, okay, and it dies down very quickly. Yes. That's the difference.
But Master, last week you said it's more intense at that level.
That's a different story. Well, it comes to gelato, it's different, okay? Do we have gelato today, I heard? What happened to gelato, huh? Where's my share? Okay, so you got that? So this is real, folks. Buddhism is not about theory and that kind of thing. It's real because emotions is important to us, right? Girls, right? Emotions, okay? Love, okay? So when you get the first stage Arhat, it dies down quicker, and it's not as out of control, okay? Except for love. When the first stage Arhat, when they're in love, there's the same kind of intensity, even more. In some cases, because it's still their weakness. So far, so good? It's very complicated. Don't try to understand everything, okay? You're not there yet. Okay. So far, so good? So there's a difference between ordinary people and first stage Arhat. First stage Arhat recovery time is so much faster than us ordinary people. So I noticed that, I get them afflicted, the first stage Arhat, real afflicted, they go crazy, and within minutes, they say, I'm calm. But for the rest of us ordinary people, when you get afflicted, that's it. The whole day is shot. Sound familiar? I have a terrible day today. Come on. Terrible day? You're so ordinary. Agree or disagree? Some of you today here are first stage Arhat or higher, and most of you are not. So I'm speaking to you. Anyone who disagrees, don't you dare. I get very afflicted. So far, so good? So that's the first stage Arhat. What about a fourth stage Arhat? You come to the fourth stage Arhat, you're short and ugly. He says, Go on. So it's no blip. No blip at all. A horrible thing. You waited all day to wait for her to come around and say, you're short and ugly. Oh, yeah? Okay. Anything else? Have a nice day. Okay? No blip whatsoever. That's why it's called they have wisdom. That's why they have potential. If you like that, then you can learn much more important things that we don't want to scare you yet. Ordinary people. Isn't that cool? That's why the Buddha is, the distinction of classes of people, the level of samadhi right there is for real. It translates into our daily lives. It's not just words. That's how we behave. It's how we function. So far, so good? Yes, orange.
It's a little bit hard to hear when you say that one of the five was certified to first or fourth?
First.
First, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The Ashnata Kondinya, when he heard the concept of guest dust, he says, you know, that insult here I heard, it's like a guest dust. It goes into my brains, it registers a blip, but it'll be gone. I don't need to hang on to it. The sound is gone already. Okay, so he says, guest dust is temporary. Okay, the insult only lasted less than 1 second, and then it's gone. And yet your mind is still processing it. The sound is disappeared, but your mind is still stuck with it. So the insult is a guest dust, but your mind is still stuck to the past. He said, oh, that's it. I should also let go. Because the sound is gone. So that's why he certified the first stage Arhatship. Does that make sense? Okay. How did he get there? In a prior life, Shakyamuni Buddha was practicing patience. He's a bodhisattva path, so he is practicing the patience paramita. So it's what is called, Master YongHua called, the patient immortal. He came to our world as a man and practiced patience, and so he patience. So he went to the forest, the mountains, stayed in the mountain, and endured what? Endured hunger, missing, the hunger. He endured the cold. He endured mosquitoes. He endured craving for gelato. Oh, excuse me. Okay, slip of a tongue. So you see, so he endured a lot of stuff in the mountains, okay, by himself. Endured being lonely, okay, missing his mother, and so forth. And one day, the king of Kalinga, Ge Li Wang, is king of the country, so he wanted to go sightseeing, so he went sightseeing to the mountain. And he brought along with him his concubines, his royal concubines. Not sure how many of them. So they went to the mountain, and the king was going around doing his things, and the girls are interested in other things, so they wander around looking at scenery separately. And they stumble, or these royal concubines tumbled on this patient immortal who's sitting there in a rock and meditating away. So they came, whoa, look at that strange animal. He's so dirty, his hair so bushy. And they thought it was some kind of beast. And so they said, whoa, they shriek and say, oh, look, there is a monster. And they said, oh, where? And so the monster woke up, opened his eyes, and no, I'm not a monster. I'm a patient immortal. I'm practicing patience. So the royal concubines never saw a monster like that before, so they gathered around him and asked him a lot of questions. I say, oh, how do you stand the cold? You don't wear any clothes. You don't have that many clothes. Your clothes are all tattered, and you're wearing a bark as clothing. And how do you eat? All those things. So so he's talking to them, and he's giving them Dharma, okay, speaking Dharma to them. They got excited, and they're very happy. They're laughing and smiling, okay? And the patient immortal was patiently bearing with them, bothering his cultivation. That's part of the patience practice. When you practice patience, you can say, I'm practicing patience, please don't bother me. Okay? So he put up with that, and it goes on and on. You know how girls are. If you asked the Japanese Olympic Executive Committee, they will tell you girls are, they speak too much, they take too long. Yes or no? Did you hear that in the news? A couple of Japanese executive on the Olympic executive team resigned because they made derogatory comments about women in general. So now a second guy resigned. Okay. So anyway, which planet are you from, by the way? Really? God, how come I as a monk know more about what's going on in Japan than you? I'm so afflicted. Engineers and anyway, so he was patiently, answering all the questions, all these silly questions, all these royal concubines were asking him. And King Kalinga, after a while, King Kalinga realized, what happened? What happened to my concubines? They're supposed to hang around me and, and say little things and laugh and smile and walk funny around me. So he noticed that they all disappeared. So he went around looking for them, only to find them gathered and huddled around this dirty, with hair, bushy hair, and listening, talking, and laughing with him, listening and raptured to what he has to say. So the king was very, very unhappy. How can be any other man more important than me, he thinks. All the men are looking down, except for Anthony. There's hope for you, my man. So he is very upset, he was jealous. He says, my royal concubines are so thrilled with this dirty man, dirty-looking man. Not very happy. So he came over and said, hey, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm listening to this guy. And I said, so who are you? He said, I am the patient immortal. He said, what's patient immortal? I'm practicing patience. How do you practice patience? I said, I endure everything I can think of. I said, what did you endure so far? I endure hunger. Okay, that's impressive. What do you endure? I endure rain. I endure heat. And so the king says, I don't believe you. You're blowing smokes. You're lying to me. You're lying to my concubines. And he says, no, I'm not. I'm honest to God. I swear to you that I'm practicing patience. So the king says, I don't believe you. Let's see if how good you are at enduring patience. So he took out his sword and said, I tell you what, let's see this. So he cut off his ears and said, how do you feel? Shakyamuni Buddha, the patient immortal, says, I'm fine. Okay. No, you gotta be kidding me. Does it hurt? I say, yeah, but I can take it. I think, okay. Now so he cut off the other ear. I said, how about now? He said, no problem. He said, oh, you gotta be lying to me. So the king says, how about this? So he cut off one arm of the patient immortal. How about now? Are you angry? Patient immortal said, no, I'm not. I don't believe you. So cut off the other arm. He went on and cut off. Every time he cuts off something, the patient immortal is not afflicted at all. Okay, so he ended up cutting everything off. Okay, the ears, the arms, the legs. And then he says, how about now? Oh, are you angry at me? Yeah. And the patient immortal said, no, I'm not. And the king says, I don't believe you. Patient immortal said, if I have dust's worth of anger towards you, then I would be lying to you. If I weren't lying to you, if my mind has absolutely have no anger or enmity towards you, then let my limbs grow again. And sure enough, just like in a movie, the limbs start growing. There's first a baby limb, baby arm, then it gets bigger and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it grows hair. And then all the 4 limbs are restored. The king Kalinga was shocked, and he was so surprised that he passed out. When he came to, he got on his knees and bowed to the patient immortal and said, please forgive me, I didn't realize you are so sage. Please don't harm me, don't hurt me. And the patient immortal patiently said, it's okay, I'm not angry at you. And to prove that point, in the future, I will make sure that when I become enlightened, when I become a Buddha, you'll be the first one I will save. That's why after Shakyamuni Buddha became enlightened, became a Buddha, he looked around for the opportunity, and he saw Ashnatha Kondinya as the who was previously King Kalinga. So he went over there and spoke Dharma to him and helped him become enlightened. That's the story behind it. Okay? All right. Questions, comments? All right, going back to the slides, number 164, commentary. Exhausting sentient beings vow doors, then in every Dust-motes practice is fulfilled. This is
尽众生之愿门，则诚诚心满。
This is what bodhisattvas do. The bodhisattvas, they make vows to save infinite living beings. Okay? Meaning that for each different type of living beings, they need to make different types of vows in order to more effectively save them. It is no one size fits all. You have to use different tools, different things in order to save living beings, different living beings. Okay? And therefore, in Mahayana, we have this vow. When you take refuge tomorrow, you'll be making this vow. The vow says, living beings are infinite. I'll vow to save them all. Okay? That means that the bodhisattvas' practice is to try to save all living beings, all kinds of living beings. And in order to save these all kinds of living beings, they need to use different tools, different methodologies, okay? And so these are the skills that needed to develop themselves in order to save living beings, okay? So that's why in Mahayana, the practice involves making a lot of vows. Infinite number of vows. When you say, I vow to save living beings, that means that you eventually, in the future, when you're able, when you have the skills, then you need to spend the time to develop the skills and the tools to save all these different types of living beings. Okay? That is why there's a difference between a Arhat and a Bodhisattva. An Arhat says, I'm going to save myself. That's it. I will figure out a way to save myself. Okay? Meaning, I will put an end to all my suffering. And that's why it's relatively easy, because you only have to save one person, yourself. Whereas the Bodhisattvas, in order for you to become a Bodhisattva, you have to learn to save a lot of living beings, a lot more than yourself. Okay? And that's what it takes. In order to save a lot of living beings, the engine behind that is called the vow engine. Okay? So the Bodhisattvas make a lot of vows. Every time they practice the Bodhisattva path, these Bodhisattvas make vows to say, okay, like my master YongHua, he says, I vow that as long as there are 4-stage Arhats in the world, I vow that I will help them become enlightened, become a Buddha. Only then will I become a Buddha. So that's a vow. He says, I don't care how many Arhats there are, I will save them all. And then he also vowed to save all the Pratyeka Buddhas. He says, as long as they're Pratyeka Buddha alive, I will save them all before I would become a Buddha. They had to become Buddha before me. And then he says, my disciples, this is what interested me in the first place. Anyone who became my disciples, I will vow that he become a Buddha before I do. So I said, how about me? Can I be your disciple? So I signed up with him right away. So I'm safe. I don't care anymore. So now we can goof off. Too late for you though. I'm sorry. I'm a go. You are not. Okay? So we say, we go people. Okay? We go generation. My generation would go. We're going to become a Buddha before my master. How about that? Okay? So let him do all the work for us. Okay, so that's what Bodhisattvas do. And YouTube has a question. Go ahead.
So in order to save living beings, do you need to first save yourself, or can you save yourself by saving many living beings? Or what
That's
should
a
you
good
focus
question.
on first?
That's a good question. I don't know. Who has the answer for that, by the way? Huh? Who has the answer for this? It's not in the scriptures anywhere. How can you answer this? Huh? Sometimes you listen to Dharma and you have to say, is this from experience or is it from just deduction? Okay, or is it from Google? Yes, orange. No? The Google passes. Okay, so do you have to save yourself first before you can save others? Or how about saving others, like your mother? You know, like Asian women, and God bless them all. I grew up in my generation. My mother, I don't know about your generation. My mother says, "I'm a wife. I'm a mother. Therefore, my husband eats before me. My children eat before me. Our parents eat before me. I'm the one to stay for you. Otherwise, I'm not a woman." Not anymore, right? Oh, lucky you. Because that's what a woman is supposed to do. I'm sorry. Is that too old-fashioned for you? You girls are so spoiled. You are so weak. My mother, she would cook for the entire house, okay? And God bless Lily. Lily, is she there in Wei Mountain Temple? Her generation, my generation, okay? Is that the same generation we belong to? The Korean women, they still cook for the entire family, right? The entire generation, the entire family, they have these ancestors' feasts, ancestors' ceremonies, where they spend like 3-4 days cooking non-stop. Yes? Hey, Sang-wook, don't hide. Not her generation. That generation is spoiled rotten already. In Lily's generation, I heard, they would stand on their feet and cook for 3 days straight, okay, to prepare for the feast, okay? And then they feed all the family and relatives, the entire family, all the brothers and sisters of the husband, okay? And yes or no, Lily? No? Come on, Sang-wook, translate for her. No, she says no, it's not true.
The mic doesn't work.
The mic doesn't work? Saved by the mic.
Oh, translation machine doesn't work. So she can't hear what you're saying.
Give her a new battery. Change the batteries. But anyway, so in my generation, the women are supposed to slave for the family because it's a woman's job. You guys are so lucky. Oh, Dieu Nga, you got that generation. Yes or no? Oh, I have another victim here.
Dạ, trong những ngày lễ Tết đám giỗ thì người phụ nữ phải lo chu đáo. Nhưng mà bây giờ thì cũng đỡ là ra tiệm mua đem về.
So during the party or holiday or whatever, we used to have to cook, but nowadays we just go to the restaurant and order food to go.
You become soft in your old age. No, a woman is supposed to do those things. Yeah. Yes, Orange.
So, Master, today is my dad's 10-year anniversary, and our family still do the same way, but we look in all the children and we find the strength in each of us. So one will be responsible for flower and fruit, and the other will be responsible for cooking different things. So we've been preparing in the past 2 days, and we did it just like the traditional way, but at a teamwork instead of one person doing all the work.
Wow, it's still a very traditional family in the United States. Stay here, don't go back to Vietnam. Very good. So these traditions are really how we control our women. YouTube has a question. I'm never shy and stay away from controversy. Go ahead, YouTube, let me have it.
Master Diego said you have to save yourself first, then you're able to help other people. If not, you will be teaching your stupidity.
Yeah, but in my generation, if you say that, if they say, I have to take care of myself first before I can save others, you're not considered a real woman. You fall short of your duties as a woman. So I remember I used to tell my mother, she would stand up there and cook for days for the family and relatives, and then when we ate, when it's time to eat, she still would stand there and take care of every single bowl of pho and every single dish of stuff, and then, like, women here at the temple, don't you guys eat? We don't allow you to eat, do we? We're very traditional to our temple, no? So that's why culturally I don't get it. Why is that in our culture, most Asian cultures, I don't know about Western culture, Asian cultures, the women are supposed to sacrifice themselves to the family. Otherwise, they're not real women. Okay? And so culturally, it is as the way it is. However, nowadays, you young women are too lazy. It's too much pressure, you run away. Okay, and ask for a divorce and half the family fortune. Anyway, I don't know whether because it's not clear in the scriptures whether you should save yourself first or save others first. Culturally, I'm trying to tell you, culturally, the Asian cultures would disagree with that, would say that you save others, because that's how you become selfless, right? You keep on saving others, and then that's how you become selfless. But here's what happens. You ask Dieu Nga and her generation, maybe she can help me out here, because I'm no woman. I'm very sympathetic for women, but to women, but I don't know what you're going through. I cannot imagine how tough it is for you. But the point here, see, that's called French 为养育. Pay attention. Okay? But it seems to me that I don't know what the point is. So to say that if you have to save others, serve others first before you help yourself, then I think you are denying one thing. I don't know if Dieu Nga agrees with this or not. You're denying the fact that you built this resentment, that you are treated unfairly. Yes.
Dạ, con xin phép trả lời. Lúc xưa đó mà chưa tu thì coi như là mình chịu đựng riết rồi nó quen. Bây giờ có tu rồi thì mình thấy cái chuyện mình hy sinh cho người khác, lo cho người khác là cái việc nên làm.
That doesn't help.
Master, before I know how to cultivate, I just know that I have to endure and then I get used to it. But now, after I cultivate, I aware that when I sacrifice for others, that's the thing that I supposed to do.
Unfortunately, here's what I observe. In the prior generation, my mother's generation, they endured and they resented, and they pass it on to their mother-in-law, daughter-in-laws. Okay, they said, "I suffered. Now your turn." Okay, so yes, Black, yeah.
Thưa thầy, thì con thấy trong cái pháp môn của Phật Pháp á, thì Phật dạy rất là nhiều pháp môn, 84.000 gì đó. Thì trong tất cả những pháp môn đó quy tụ về là cái pháp môn trung đạo là thực tế nhất. Cho nên mình cái gì cũng làm chung hết, không có phải thực tế thì con thấy cũng như nếu mà mình muốn cứu người ta đang chết đuối, mình không biết bơi, mình đâu cứu được, mình phải biết bơi trước rồi mình mới cứu người ta được.
Master, Buddha taught 84,000 Dharma door, but it's not beyond the middle way. So we need to be realistic. For example, if you see someone is drowning, you want to help them, but if you don't know how to swim, how can you help? So you need to learn how to swim first.
Okay, Orange.
Master, I do agree with you because what I saw at work, because when I take care of my patient, typically when I see that, I don't want to be generalized, but I saw Indian women who have do so much for the family, and then when it comes to them being in labor, I can see the resentment in them, even though they don't say it, but I can see when the husband or the mother-in-law being around, I sense that resentment. Yeah.
Yes, an unfair distribution of the burden of the family. Huh? All right, anyone else? YouTube question?
Sue said, precepts is to save yourself, samadhi is to focus with vow power, then wisdom naturally comes for you to save others. Work is internal. Anyone can cultivate the inner heart. Duty externally is natural. Cultivation and duty go hand in hand.
Wow, there's some depth in there. So you go save yourself first and others later, or save others first and yourself later? Here's my answer. Each one of us has this notion of fairness. That's very important to us. That's how we see the world. And I give the example of women is to show you that it doesn't matter how you explain it, how you justify it, the women who have to do all the work know it's not fair. Okay? They build this resentment. Okay? That's very hard to undo. Nowadays, the new generation, modern times is not as severe as before. But still, the women still feel there's the unfair division of labor. You have to go to work as well. You have to, make babies as well. And you have to train your husband how to take out the garbage. Right? So it's not fair. It's just like this society have more expectations from you than of men. All right? And so my point here is that if we treat people unfairly, I don't care if women or men, the resentment is built. So if you tell them you should sacrifice yourself in order to save others, okay, then you cannot save yourself because of that resentment. Okay? So my answer to the question to do save yourself first or save others first is depends who you are. If you're an ordinary person, then you have resentment. You have this sense of fairness and unfairness. Okay? And it's very deep-seated. You can deny it on your women like Dieu Nga and generations. I don't mind, get used to it. Yeah, I hear when she said, I heard, I don't like it. It's unfair. I don't like it, but I learned to put up with it. So this resentment, lucky that she's, where she is right now. But, if I ask her that, like 5 years ago, she said, oh, yeah, she said the same thing, but inside she's bubbling. She said, I don't like it. So that's what happens to ordinary people. They have this resentment that's very hard for them to cope with. It eats them up. So that's why if you are an ordinary person, you need to save yourself first. It's not practical that you try to save others before you save yourself. It doesn't work like that, because if you don't have the wisdom, you cannot save others because you're too afflicted. All right? So if you're an ordinary person, you need to save yourself first. However, if you're an enlightened person, then you can save others. You can forget about yourself. So there you go. I speak on both sides of the mouth at the same time. All right. While they're processing it, let's continue with the lecture. Yes, Orange.
Sorry, this is about the previous section of the. The afflictions are helpful for cultivation, but all kinds of afflictions are helpful, or some kind of afflictions are not helpful as helpful.
Not sure how to answer that. There's no formula. Okay? In general, the afflictions are your weaknesses. What you will, there are the impurities in your makeup. You need to get rid of them. Okay? So far so good? It's a general answer is afflictions are impurities in your Buddha nature. Your perfect Buddha nature, your pure Buddha nature, your happy Buddha nature, that these afflictions are actually causing you to be unhappy, to be disturbed, and to lack peace. So you have to get rid of them. Okay? However, you cannot get rid of all afflictions at the same time. So you have to learn to get rid of the different types of afflictions at different times. Go back to the point, do you save yourself first or you save others first? If you're an ordinary person, you need to save the afflictions that will make you lose your clarity of mind, so that you can no longer help your children, you can no longer help your mother and your father, because you're afflicted. So forget about trying to help others, because you don't know how. So you have to get rid of the afflictions that cloud your judgment. Okay, clouds your mind. However, when you become, after you become enlightened, the affliction are a different nature. Okay, so you deal with it differently. That's all. So there's no single answer for that works for everyone. Each level of practice requires a different types of handling of the afflictions. That's why at the beginning of the lecture, I explained to you about tiring dust. If the Hinayana people explain it as an affliction, it's like too vague. Affliction has so many of them. And you don't know how these things arise, the nature of these afflictions. So how can you deal with them? You don't know them, don't know much about them. Whereas in Mahayana, we go a little bit deeper into greater details, where we say this affliction arises from your ears, this affliction arises from your nose, affliction arises from your love, your heart, that kind of thing. So now you have a better idea on what the problem is, so you have a better chance of how to fix it. Okay? Questions?
Is it a sense of balancing, like the right type of afflictions, or like kind of like the middle way, not maybe too much afflictions of some type will make people commit offenses, or it's not really that good? What's the right amount of obstacles and afflictions will be the best help?
All the above.
Okay, thank you.
What happens is that the question is typical of the people who ask questions, in that you want to know what it is. You want to have a clear idea what it's all about. You want to have the big picture. There's no such a thing as a big picture. The big picture is too big for you. There's not enough time to explain to you the big picture. I'd be dead before I can explain it to you. Okay? And so it's not the way you think. It's not the way that the scholars or the bookworms conjure it, imagine it. It's not like that. It's a lot simpler. Okay, but it depends on the individual, depends on your level, depends on a lot of things. Okay, and this belongs to the realms of good known advisor who are trained, who are experienced in learning how to cope with it, how to help people resolve it, because they themselves went through it already. Okay, so for example, just give you an example of my late Chinese teacher, or the typical Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Do you know that a typical Bodhisattva like Master YongHua, or the great monks, they're known as national teachers. They teach emperors, they teach kings, they teach empresses, they teach queens. Okay? How so? I'll tell you how. How can they, as a monk, how can they teach someone how to be a king? How to be a queen? Huh? How to rule a country? How is it possible? Because they were kings and queens in prior lives. They made a vow and said, I'm going to save a king and queen, so I better learn how to be a king and queen before I can speak to them, before I can teach them how to be a better ruler. Okay, so that's why there's no fixed answers, and it belongs to the realm of the individual coaching, if you will. Think of it as you are a coach of a tennis player. You know, this guy is a lefty, so you need to teach him how to use his left hand better. Okay, and whereas the other guy is a righty, so you have to learn to use different strokes. Someone is faster in his feet. Someone is taller, so you use different strengths that they have. So the adjustments are different. Okay, there's no one answer for it. And that's the skills of the good no advisor. All right. Going back to 164. Oh, time is almost up. It says there, so not only do they make infinite number of vows in order to save infinite number of living beings, but also that they will do it everywhere. They're not restricted by space. These vows here, they will go everywhere to fulfill these vows. They don't say that I only save California or Korea or Democrats only. I will also save non-Democrats. Why? Okay? I'm kidding. Don't get afflicted again. And that's what happens. Part of the thing is that you make them so afflicted they go crazy. And say, and you do it again the next day, and do it again the next day until they say, I want to kill you. And I say, you're going to break precepts. You see, sometimes you do the hard way, sometimes you do the soft way. I prefer being nice, but sometimes it's more fun to be mean. All right, so these bodhisattvas, actually, Shakyamuni Buddha, this is his Buddha land, but he also goes to the other Buddha lands where he saves living beings everywhere as well. Why? Why is that? Why? It's the same thing, same. It's just like you try to save Elon Musk and we wonder why, okay? And up until last year, you can find him in California. Now he's moving to Austin, Texas. What are we gonna do? We have to go to Austin, Texas to try to save him. Same thing. Living being used to be here in the Sahara land, our world. Okay? I have one of my disciples who says, I came from the other Pure Land. And then I heard of the Western Bliss Pure Land, so I prayed to Amitabha Buddha. I said, Amitabha Buddha, please help me. I want to get to your Pure Land. And so Amitabha Buddha says, go to Blue Mountain Temple. I said, what? Say what? Go to the RBA. They're the real deal, not us. You see? So these people, they move around. Okay, so that's why we have to move around to find them. Just imagine, okay, that, remember, I'm Master Shenhua disciple, now I'm a Go-Ter, you know? So I'm going to be a Buddha before he does. And then now that I know that, I will find a place where I hide. And guess what? If he wants to be a Buddha, he has to find me, look for me, and then save me. See that? It's so cool. So that's why these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they learn to go everywhere to save, to find people. They're like private eyes and private investigators who can locate anyone, anywhere in the universe, if you will. Totally unimpressed, these people. I reveal all these secrets for you, and you say, Okay, yes. Be it that way. Okay, so that's the end of item number 8. Next time you go to item number 9, which is concluding, number 8. And we go to, we finished number 7, now we go to number 8, concluding the praise of its vast scope. So this sutra here is so vast. It's nowhere that it cannot reach, nowhere that it doesn't know. Okay? 165 next time. Thank you all. Let's do the reverse transference.